y'all, Farmer Dre back at it. It's another beautiful morning here on the farm. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go and smash the like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. So the sun was coming out on the east side. We're expecting rain here in about an hour. On the west side, it's kind of a gloomy morning, but then the sun's coming out, so it's kind of a both way. We got done making cider late last night, and we got a busy day planned. But before we head into the day, I'm gonna go ahead and make this video about the 5 biggest mistakes I did whenever growing apple trees. One thing that I've realized on my channel, people like watching the mistake videos that I made. Like I got a blueberry, like 5 biggest mistakes when growing blueberries. That's almost at 40,000 views. All my other strawberry mistake videos are getting some serious views. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Everybody has an apple tree, so let's talk about how we done messed up when you're growing apples. So our main crop here on the farm is apples. We have the most apple trees. The most acre on an acre basis we have most is apples, just because the original orchard that we bought back in 2013 was an apple orchard with a few peaches. Now we have about 7 acres of peaches, about 15 to 16 acres of apples, and the blueberries and blackberries and the strawberries. As you guys can see behind me, this is called the high density apple system, or the tall spindle apple system. So this is a high density apple system. If you guys have been watching my channel for quite some time, you guys know that we're one of the first orchards in our area to try the system out. So we planted this acre of high density apples here. They're all on dwarfing rootstocks, so they're on Geneva 41 and Geneva 11 rootstocks. But every row here is a different variety, and since we didn't know that much about high density apples, and on experience base, I knew nothing about high density apples. This is why we planted just this acre here, just to see how it is, how it turns out, and so far we are loving it. So the first biggest mistake, in my opinion, that someone can make whenever they're planting an apple tree in an apple orchard, is choosing the right variety and the right rootstock, and make sure you know what growing system or what trellis system you're going to be growing them on. So in this high density system, if you're not growing them on a dwarfing rootstock, you done messed up. This system does not work without a dwarfing rootstock. And with this high density system, the varieties that you plant need to be a higher value variety, meaning that they got to be something that customers are willing to pay just a little more, just because it costs so much more on a per acre basis to build this system. So on this system, your initial cost is, first of all, the trees. You're putting 1,200 trees per acre, and then you have the post and wire. So an acre of high density apples could cost you anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000, even $30,000. So if you're not choosing a variety that is a high value variety, then you're never going to see your money's back in that 4 to 5 years. And one of the big benefits of the high density system is the production in the 3rd and 4th year. That's when the most critical time is, because that's when you're going to start seeing some return on investment. And hopefully by the 4th or 5th year, you'll see a complete payoff if you have a really good crop of apples and you keep them managed right and everything. So that's why a really high value variety or really high crop variety is beneficial in the system. Like, I don't think you'll see any Red Delicious or any other older varieties like that. We do have a row of Golden Delicious here, just because we were trying it out, but I think that was a big mistake on our part. We should have never planted an older variety like that. But we have Fuji's, Jonathans, Galas, Jonna Golds. We got some Liberties, Pink Ladies, and just different varieties like that. And then next spring, we are actually planting another 1,800 new trees here on the farm. So that's right over 2 acres of high density apples. No, it's right under 2 acres of high density apples. So we're planting a new variety from the Midwest Apple Improvement Association called Evercrisp. That's a club variety. So now we had to join the MAIA to be able to buy those trees, to purchase those trees. So we have 1,000 of those trees coming. And then we have a new variety from them as well called Ludacrisp, and then some other variety called Crimson Crisp. So we're all excited about those because those are all club. The Evercrisp and Ludacrisp are club varieties or new varieties. So those are a really high value variety that we're going to see that pay off real fast and real quick, other than like these Jonathans or the Jonna Gold. So variety is very important whenever you're planting an orchard, or just even for yourself. So I am very aware that not all my viewers are going to potentially have an orchard, or even, you know, if you guys are just a home gardener, you guys are going to look more like this system right here. So this is just a traditional or moderate orchard system or style. So these trees are planted 20 foot between each row and 12 feet between each tree, and these are on a semi-dwarfing rootstock. The rootstock here is M26, so they're only going to be about 50 to 60% whenever of a standard, compared to a standard apple tree. So these trees at maturity are probably going to be 14, 15 foot tall, and that's it. So whenever it comes down to any tree, any apple tree, the things I'm going to talk about now are credible for all of them. So the biggest thing that I've seen as an apple farmer and as a grower here in the Midwest, the biggest thing that someone needs to realize whenever you're growing, especially trees or just an apple tree in general, is the fertilization. How much fertilizer and how much manure or whatever source of fertilizer you're putting on, how much of that are you putting on per year? So we have a few trees we planted about 7 years ago, and we just kind of neglected them. Like I said, we didn't have much knowledge about growing apples when we first bought the orchard. So we planted them on, there's a row back there, and 7-year-old trees they're on a more standard rootstock, and they're only about 10, 12 foot tall, and they're not even filling out that well. So your fertilizer program, or how often you fertilize, is very important. So ideally, we got to come through here once a month and fertilize the orchard. So a lot of times we come through early spring and amend with some manure. We use a lot of turkey manure because it's available in this area. It's fairly cheap, and we actually have a friend from church that has a turkey farm, so he gives us a really good deal on some turkey manure. And the nutrient, the fertilizer value of that turkey manure is very high. So turkey manure has anywhere from 60 to 70% nitrogen on a per ton basis. So we come through here and add quite a bit, not quite a bit, probably 4 or 5 shovels per tree in the spring. And then if we see that the trees are lacking anything, we'll come back through with some more of that, or we use a lot of synthetic fertilizers, like some calcium nitrate works really well for the trees, or just like a triple 20, just some to give that tree a little more boost. So technically you're supposed to come through here every month and fertilize your tree. And if you have a healthy tree, you should see anywhere from 18 to 24 inches of growth per year on that tree. And if you don't see that much growth, that means you have a problem, you have an issue with the tree. And it could be either from the fertilizer, and that's the most common thing, or another thing that is very important when growing trees is water. So you're probably underestimating how much water trees need. So they need water on a per weekly basis. So they need about a full inch of rain per week, and that's kind of like the average of every crop. But with trees, I realized that the more water you give them, if you have a really well draining soil, you're not doing them any harm. Just make sure you're keeping them fertilized and you're giving them plenty of water, and then you should be able to see that 18 to 24 inches of growth. And I even seen even more, like on this high density apple system, we've seen anywhere from 2 to 3 foot of growth in the second year, and that's with plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer. So those two combined make a huge difference whenever it comes to tree nutrition and the whole entire aspect of the tree, because if you're not growing the tree, you're never going to see any kind of apples or any kind of production off that tree. So then you're kind of just wasting your space in your yard or even in your orchard. So these trees back here, like I said, they're on a semi-dwarfing rootstock. So these are 4 years old, and the semi-dwarfing rootstocks, now they're planting them more towards like on a higher density system. But whenever we planted this block here, we didn't know much about high density apples. So this rootstock here puts a lot of branches, small side branches. So we really got to push these in the next couple of years, push these trees with a lot of fertilizer just to fill up the space, because any space you have empty between the trees, you're not making that production out of the most production out of the system, or even out of the tree itself. So that's why we're all excited about the high density system, because there is no empty space other than, I don't know if you guys can see this here, there's no trees planted here. We got to plant those in the spring, but there is no empty space where you could potentially have a tree that could be producing you the apples. Alrighty, so I see you guys here on the pole. I hope you guys see. So behind me here we have some Liberties on a Geneva 11 rootstock, and these are 2 years old, like I mentioned. So they're getting up there. I mean, they're getting to 9 foot, 10 foot tall. And this row right here that I'm standing on, or I set you guys on, this is a Fuji on a Geneva 41 rootstock, and I forgot what number I'm on, either 3 or 4. Anyways, I'm just going to continue talking here until I run out of ideas of how we done messed up when growing apples. So choosing a variety is very important. Fertilizer, make sure the trees are watered. And the fourth, number 4 now, so the fourth biggest thing whenever you're growing any tree, especially on apples, is weed control. So a lot of people don't realize how much weeds have an issue, how much weeds can interfere with the growth of the tree. So early spring, we come through here, and you know, we leave a 2-foot strip on each side. You can see there on that row there on the ground, or even every row. We come through here and kill off with an herbicide, about a foot and a half or 2 foot on each side of the row here. And the reason we want to kill off the weeds is, first of all, it's competition to the tree. So anything growing around the base of that tree is taking up nutrients and water away from that tree that needs to go to the tree. And then also it helps out with the soil aeration around the tree. And there's a lot of benefits to killing off the weeds around the tree. And I don't care if you're killing them off with fire, with vinegar, with salt, whatever. Just anything to go ahead and kill off those weeds around the tree. And if you're just growing them like on a traditional, just a traditional apple tree, you want to make sure you have a 3 to 4 foot ring around that tree, just because those weeds will rob the tree of all the nutrients and water. And then if it's not going to the tree itself, it's going to something else. So the something else is a weed. So weed control is key. I can't preach enough about weed control. I've experienced this personally. So whenever we first bought the orchard, like I mentioned, we knew nothing about tree production, fruit production, and I went to Missouri State. I got my degree in horticulture, and over there I took a fruit production class, and he was talking about weed control, and I was like, how come we've never tried this on our orchard? So that next spring and that whole next year, I came out here and tried the weed control issue thing. Sprayed some herbicides, and then tried some different methods. I used a flame one time, a flame weed, I don't know, it's a blowtorch that kills weeds. And the growth in that year compared to the trees that weren't treated was just, I mean, it was an obvious difference. I mean, huge difference. The tree that was controlled, that had the weed control around it, was just huge. I mean, I tried this on peaches and apples, and I remember on the peach tree that I tried it on, I got like 4 foot of growth off that tree, just off one limb. It was a small tree, but I mean, that's critical. That's huge, because we're in the fruit business, and you got to be able to grow the tree and then start producing the fruit. So the faster you can have a bigger tree, a bigger mature tree, the more fruit you're going to see, and that's where we're selling. So, you know, weed control is huge. And like I said, I don't care how you're killing them. Just make sure there is no weeds around your trees. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys here. So this is a tree here, and we came through here and killed. You can see a clear strip on each side. We came through here twice with an herbicide and killed it off during the summer. But you know, this time of year there's not any aggressive weeds, so we didn't do anything about it. So we'll come back in the spring. But this is what we're trying to see: some nice bare soil. Make sure that it's clean around the trees. I can clearly see some of that rootstock there and everything. The tree's nice. I mean, you'll get some trees that have a little weed issue that you get in the fall. But like I said, we come through here 2 or 3 times a year, make sure the trees are nice and clean, and then the trees are going to grow. So the next thing I want to talk about, the wind's kind of picking up here, is how you're going to train the trees. And depending on what system you're growing them on, it's very important to know how to train your tree. So like I said, these trees here are on the high density apple system. So these are on the tall spindle, and as you guys can see here, I went ahead and tied off these branches. They were below horizontal, but you know, you get a bunch of this growth here that comes up. So I probably have to come through and tie it down even more. But with tying down the branches, especially on a dwarfing tree, what it does, it lets the tree knows, hey, I'm old enough to produce a crop. So over here, these are all fruiting buds for next year. As you can see, those all fruiting buds for next year. So, you know, we're gonna see quite a bit of apples off this tree alone next year, just because we went ahead and first of all trained the branches correctly, trained the tree correctly. And like I said, if you tie the branches below horizontal or horizontal, it lets the tree know that, hey, I'm going to start producing some flower buds for next year. And depending on the variety, like I mentioned earlier, you get some, like this is a very vigorous variety, so you get a bunch of, you know, these branches here. I got to come through and prune them up and clean them up nicely. But if you're growing them to the open center or just a central leader tree, make sure you do some research on how you're supposed to train the tree, so you can go ahead and see some production off them as quick as you can, because I mean, you plant a tree and you got to wait 3, 4, 5 years, and then of course you want to start eating some apples off it. So if you're not eating any apples off it, it's like, what's the point of a fruit tree? So learning how to train your tree correctly on different systems. And you can see here, we're going to see quite a bit of production off these. And these are the Fujis here. And with Fujis, this is very important to tie down the limbs, because you can see here, this limb was tied down, has all those fruiting buds on them. But then limbs like this that grew this year don't have a single fruiting bud on them. So this is a tip-bearing variety. So we'll see some production off the tips, which will hopefully pull down these branches like this. But yeah, tree training is very, very important, and especially on this high-density apple system, just because we're in the fruit business, we're not in the wood business. So the faster we get producing apples on the system, the faster the return on investment, and it's just a better, there's a lot of benefits to the high density system. I should probably just make a full video on explaining the benefits of the high density system. But yeah, tree training is very important. So this is gonna be pretty much it for today. I guess the 5 biggest mistakes, or the 5 biggest things you need to know whenever you plant an apple tree or even plant an orchard. So I'm gonna go ahead and get back to work here. And I realize now that I'm doing everyday uploads that, you know, a lot of the stuff we do on the farm, you know, it's kind of boring. I don't like doing this sometimes. I'm like, I'm not gonna take you guys along. I probably should. And I'm trying to do a mixture of videos, vlog style and educational videos. And as you guys know, I'm not the funny one of the family. But my brother Adrian, he's the joke maker there. So as you guys seen, if you guys haven't seen some of his TikToks, go ahead and follow him at Real Farmer on TikTok and see how he's actually right there working. But anyways, yeah, so I'm more of the educational kind of guy, because as you guys know, I got my degree in this, and I'm just really passionate about growing fruit. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, go and smash the like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, I'm coming to you guys every day now, so make sure you hit that notification icon so you guys can be notified at what time I upload the videos. I want to say thanks for watching up to this point. You guys have a good day, and we'll see you next time.